Hello everyone, this is topic 3.9, separation of solutions and mixtures chromatography. This is taken from AP Chemistry College Board. In this video, I'll be talking about how the mixtures can be separated into its components by using different techniques. I'll be giving all the details of the techniques in this video. So let's start. Let me just first give you a recap of what is a solution. So a solution is made up of a solute and a solvent, where solute is in the minority and solvent is in the majority. So when you mix solute in a solvent, it leads to a solution. A solution is also called as a homogeneous mixture, and if you want to know more about the solutions and mixtures, you can watch the topic solutions and mixtures and also the representations of solutions, which are the previous topics. The first technique which I am discussing to separate a solute and a solvent is the evaporation. So evaporation is a process in which the solvent is boiled and evaporated in order to separate out from a solute. So basically we take a solution and we heat it at such a temperature that the solvent gets evaporated, like it gets changed from liquid to gaseous form, and we are left with the solute at the end. For example, if we are talking about a solution of water and salt, we will heat the solution, the water will change into water vapors and we will be left with the salt at the end. So here you can see that the solid particles of salt remains after the liquid gets evaporated. This is the easiest technique, you can say, in which there is no requirement of special apparatus. You just need a burner to heat up the solution and a beaker in which the solution would be there, and you will heat it and you will be left with the solute. The second technique is filtration. So filtration is the process in which the mixture is passed through a porous barrier. For example, if we take a mixture of water and sand, if you pass this mixture through a filter paper which is kept on a funnel, then you will be left with the sand on the filter paper and you will be getting the water down in the beaker. So the sand which is left above on the filter paper, that is called the residue, and the solvent which you get after the filtration, that is called a filtrate. This is also easy and cheap technique because you don't need a big apparatus for this. You just need a funnel, a filter paper and a beaker. So this process is basically used for the heterogeneous mixture, where particles of the solute are a little bit bigger than the pores of a filter paper. Now let me ask a question from you all. Imagine you are filtering a solution of salt, water and sand. Can you guess what will get caught up in the filter paper? I have told you that when you take a mixture of salt and water, you follow the process of evaporation, and when you take a mixture of water and sand, at that time you use a filter paper. But now a mixture of salt, water as well as sand is taken, and you are asked that if you take a filter paper, then what would remain on the filter paper? Would it be salt? Would it be sand? Or would it be both salt and sand? Just think of it. So if we compare the salt and sand, so basically sand is not dissolved in water. So that is why it would remain above the filter paper. But as the salt is dissolved in water, so that is why it will pass through the filter paper along with water. So the answer here is sand, which would be caught up in the filter paper. I told you about evaporation technique, in which we basically heat the solution and we are left with the solute. But if we want to recover the solvent also, then what is the process? The process is the distillation. So distillation is a powerful technique for separating the component substance from a miscible fluid mixture by means of selective evaporation and condensation. So in this process, what we do is we take the solution in a distillation flask and we heat it up so that the solvent starts evaporating, and when it goes up here, it goes through this tube which is covered by a jacket which has a cold water. That vapors will get again converted into the liquid form, and we can recover that liquid at the other end. So here I have taken the example of impure water. We put that impure water in the distillation flask and we heat it to 100 degrees Celsius, because that is the boiling point of water. The water starts changing into water vapors, or you can say steam. When it comes here, it gets again condensed into the water and we can collect that water here. So this water will be free from the impurities, and when the complete distillation takes place, we will be left with the impurities at this end in the flask. This process is also useful for the mixture of two or more liquids which have different boiling points. For example, if we take a mixture of water and ethanol, both water and ethanol have different boiling points. So what we do is, first we set the temperature according to the boiling point of one of the liquids which have the lowest boiling point. Out of the mixture of ethanol and water, ethanol has a lower boiling point. So we will set the temperature according to that, and first ethanol will be converted into vapors and it will be condensed back, and we will be getting ethanol here, and in the flask we will be left with water. If you want to achieve more purity of the ethanol which we are getting in this flask, then you can do the double distillation. It means that you can repeat the process of distillation. So this process is very much helpful for the separation of the miscible liquids which have different boiling points. The boiling point and vapor pressure are related. As you can see from the term vapor pressure, it is the pressure which is exerted by the vapors in a sealed container. So the definition of vapor pressure is, it is a measure of the pressure exerted by a gas above a liquid in a sealed container. So basically, if we take a sealed container and we heat up the liquid will change into gas, and the pressure exerted by those gas molecules is called the vapor pressure. The vapor pressure property is dependent on the intermolecular forces, because if the intermolecular forces are strong, then the liquid will not evaporate easily. So the boiling point of the liquid would be higher, but if the intermolecular forces are weak, then it will evaporate easily, that is at lower temperature, and the boiling point would be lower. So the vapor pressure, intermolecular forces and the boiling point, all these things are related to each other. Another property of molecules is polarity. So the technique which takes the advantage of difference in the polarities is the chromatography. So this is the fourth technique which is used for the separation of the mixtures. Chromatography came from the term colored writing, because first time it was used to separate colored components from the plant leaves. So chromatography is a process which is used to separate solutions of multiple liquids having different polarities. So this process is also used to separate solution of multiple liquids. The chromatography consists of two phases. One is stationary phase and another is mobile phase. The stationary phase is the adsorbent solid and the mobile phase is the liquid. I'll be talking about these phases more in the coming slides. There are three types of chromatographies which we are going to study. First is paper chromatography, second is thin layer chromatography, and the third is column chromatography. First type of chromatography is paper chromatography. As I told you, the chromatography consists of a stationary phase and the mobile phase. For paper chromatography, the stationary phase is a filter paper, which is basically cellulose layers containing water. As it contains water, so that is why stationary phase is polar for paper chromatography. And the mobile phase is any solvent or the mixture of solvents, which depends upon the type of sample which we want to analyze. The method for the paper chromatography is, first of all, we put the spot of the sample which we want to analyze at the bottom of the filter paper, and we then dip that filter paper with the spot in the solvent container like this. Due to the capillary action, the solvent starts moving up in the filter paper. Here I have taken the sample which contains 3 components, and when it starts moving with the solvent, it gets separated into its components. But why does it get separated? This is because of their difference in the polarities. As the component which is the most polar will move slowly on the filter paper because of the polarity of the stationary phase. As the polar compounds have more affinity for the polar compounds, so that is why it will try to bind the component which has the highest polarity, and the other 2 components have the lesser polarity. So here, if the sample contains these 3 components, the black spot, orange spot and the red spot, then the black spot is the most polar, so that is why it is moving slowly. So this is the basis of the paper chromatography. Now let's see what is the retention factor. The retention factor is calculated as the distance moved by the sample divided by the distance moved by the solvent. For example, initially we put the spot, and this is the final spot after it has been dipped in the solvent, and this is the level to which the solvent has moved. Retention factor would be y divided by x. Now let's see this example where the sample consists of the 3 components, where the first component has moved to 1 centimeter, second component has moved to 2 centimeter, and the third component has moved to 3 centimeter, and the solvent front has moved to 5 centimeter. So can you all calculate the retention factor for these 3 components? Just try to calculate, and you will see that the retention factor would be different for all of these 3 components, and the polarity is basically decreasing as we are moving from C to B. The second type of chromatography is thin layer chromatography. This chromatography is a little bit similar to that of paper chromatography. Just the difference is the stationary phase which is used in thin layer chromatography. This chromatography is also called as TLC. So this is used to separate the components of a mixture using a thin stationary phase supported by an inert backing. So here the stationary phase is a gel kind of thing. It might be silica gel or alumina gel which is supported on the inert backing. Inert backing can be a aluminium foil. TLC is basically used to monitor the progress of a reaction. So what we do is we put the spots of the reactants as well as reaction mixture. After doing the TLC, if we are getting the spots of the reactants, it means that the reaction is not completed yet. The TLC process is simple, it has relatively low cost, it is highly sensitive, and it depends on the speed of the separation. The stationary phase, as I told you, is the silica gel or alumina gel, and both of these gels are polar, and the mobile phase again can be any solvent or the mixture of solvents. While monitoring the reaction, we again and again do this process after a certain time so that we get an idea about the reaction. The third type of chromatography is column chromatography. TLC as well as the paper chromatography are used to analyze if the reaction is completed or not. But the column chromatography is used to separate the product which we get in the reaction. Column chromatography is used to isolate a single chemical compound from a mixture, and this technique can be used on scales from micrograms up to kilograms. So this process can be used in the factories or industries also to separate the reaction mixture. This has relatively low cost, and disposability of the stationary phase is used in the process, and the stationary phase here is silica gel or alumina, and again they are polar, and the mobile phase can be any solvent or mixture of solvents. The apparatus is like this, where we take a column and we fill this column first with the glass wool or cotton at the bottom, and then we put the adsorbent, or adsorbent can be silica gel or alumina, and then we put the reaction mixture which we want to separate. And at the top we put the solvent, which is the mobile phase. When the solvent starts moving in the column, the reaction mixture starts separating depending on the polarity. So if the adsorbent, which is the stationary phase, is polar, the component of the mixture which is most polar will be moving slowest, and the one which is the least polar will be moving fast. So like this we can observe the bands of different components. When we get one of the band, we put the conical flask at the bottom so that we can separate the different bands. Keep that conical flask separately and we start with the second conical flask, and then we get the second band, and like this we can separate the mixtures of different components. So here you can see that how the column chromatography takes place. The mixture is put and then solvent is taken, and then the compound gets separated into three components, and here the solvent which we get from the bottom, it is called as the eluent. So the component which is least strongly adsorbed we get first, and the component which is adsorbed more strongly we get at the last. Please like and subscribe to the channel Log Iota and press the bell icon.